G'day people, I'm just here today talking about Tinder fungus and preparation for fire. Like, you want at least 3 forms of fire when you go into the bush. You know, one might fail you and you have to jump to the next and to the next. You know, like matches get wet. You want something that if it gets wet, you've got something else to use. So like my first port of call is a gas lighter, of course, little lighter, easy peasy. But that can go wrong. And I've got these are waterproof. I make them from wax, paraffin wax and cotton makeup pads. I can soak them in the water all night and then light them in the morning. Just crack them open and, you know, expose the cotton fibres and hit it with the ferrous rod. And that would be my second port of call because it's waterproof. A short-term safety net. But then I go on further. I mean, my bottom end is a bow drill. You know, wood, rubbing wood on wood. But the middle of the range is the fire steel. And you can start off with things like, let's get the little kit out here. Char cloth, which everyone's familiar with, or those who use a fire steel. You've got to char it. You've got to put the cloth in the tin and put it on a fire and roast it until it stops smoking. Let it cool down and then you've got your char. But you don't need to do that. I've got mullum and char mixed. I've got tinder fungus and char mixed, which you can light with the ferrous rod. You know, if you spark into it. I've got punk wood. All those things. But all those things I have to heat up on a fire and I need a tin to do it. With this method, with the tinder fungus, the horseshoe fungus, I'm in Australia, so it's a cousin of it anyway. It's the chocolate stuff and it's like felt. It's got a hard shell on top, grows on the side of trees. You just cut the hard shell off the top in this form. I don't have to even cut it up and treat it or beat it. Soak it. I soak it for 10 days in a lyre. Fire ash. About 1/3 fire ash, 2/3 water, and I leave it in there for about 10 days. I tread on it every now and then and squeeze the water out of it and chuck it back into the bucket so that it cures, it takes it in, it takes the caustic into the thing. And then dry it out. So all I've got to do really is scrape it. I found scraping, it's far better than rubbing char into it and beating it and all that. You just scrape it, like so. And that's the way Otzi the Iceman would have done it too, by the way. Because when they found him, he didn't have bits charred and rubbed in little bits, he just had that. It was like that in his pack. Of course, he had marcasite and flint. He didn't have steel. But we put that in here. I'm doing it inside today, not out next to a lovely river or anything, but you still get the idea. That fire steel too, by the way. I mean, I've got all sorts of fancy fire steels and fancy tinder tins, you know, with magnifying glasses in the lid. That's a Hudson Bay fur trade company issue that the trappers used. But it's too fancy for me. I just use an old tin with this $14 fire steel, which also has a bearing block in it if I want to use a fire drill. Anyway, and a piece of flint. We'll see how we go here with this fluffy stuff. It's fluffed up, it's very easy to light. Here we go, we've got a light straight away. And that's without charring. That's just treated tinder. I mean, if you're in the scrub and you didn't even have a bucket, you could soak that in a rock pool, in a little pool somewhere with the fire ash. But once you do it, you've got enough. I've got enough there for months. Light as to carry. and it will start a fire without a char tin, without charring anything. And that's the way they done it thousands of years ago, in Europe anyway. But I'm here in Tasmania, and we can do it right here in Tasmania. I'm sure anywhere you are, you'll find one of these types of horseshoe funguses to do it with. Now that's my main fire thing. That's my main thing I'll go do in most cases. I mean, and it's easier to start with I carry a small magnifying lens in here. Always a bit of Tinder in the box, whatever I can carry, but a small magnifying glass, a 6 times one of these. Like I said, that's too fancy for me, but I just use that. And that. And that. But at least 3 forms of fire starting devices. I mean, too many people, even here in Tasmania, go into the bush, they get lost. It's only a day trip, or supposedly. And then they wonder why they nearly die, or sometimes do. They die of exposure. All they needed to do was, in their day pack, carry a couple of 2 or 3 ways of starting a fire, and they would have been quite warm and comfortable. Anyway, that's all I've got to say for you now.